So hello and welcome to this presentation on how to end self-sabotage and transform your stress into effortless life. The first thing I think we need to get straight is that we all self-sabotage. None of us are special. None of us are worse than anybody else. We all do it. But we might just do it differently. So we might do it through our health, we might do it through our work, we might do it through our relationships, we might do it through, having a break, through, not taking relaxation. We all self-sabotage. It's like we can't help ourselves because it's our subconscious way of staying safe. For whatever reason, and there'll be many, many reasons, for whatever reason, whatever it is that we're self-sabotaging about, it's that part of us does not want to succeed. For whatever reason, it can be a whole spectrum of reasons, usually created in early childhood. But for whatever reason, we do not want to succeed at that, because then it usually means we're going to have to take on some other responsibility, or we're going to have to take a risk or whatever, which in the past did not work for us. And so we just don't bother. And then we just give ourselves a hard time because we didn't bother when we really wanted to. Because somewhere in the past, we were told, or we came to believe, that we were too small, too weak, too stupid, too ugly, etc. Basically, all under the umbrella of unlovable, that we weren't good enough. And as we all know, when we self-sabotage, depending on how hard we are with ourselves, we can get into very self-destructive behavior, definitely just feel like giving up, feel very low, isolated, I'm not going to bother trying. And we have like limiting beliefs. We're aware that we have these really limiting beliefs about ourselves. And we also lose out. We don't get to have that, whatever it was that we would really like to have if we weren't self-sabotaging. But there is no blame. There is no fault. It's no one's fault, and it certainly isn't your fault or my fault or our fault. It's nobody's fault. But it is our responsibility to set ourselves free. Nobody else can do that for us. We can ask other people to help, but no one else can actually do that for us. I want you to imagine that you are actually free. What does freedom mean to you? This is a huge topic. And in this moment, I just want you to imagine one little thing where you would like to feel free. So in your mind's eye, what are you actually doing? And how are you feeling? What are you thinking about? And how are you feeling about yourself? So how do we get from those very negative states that I listed earlier to that more free state that you've just accessed? How you'd actually like to be? Well, I believe you get there through self-awareness, through knowing yourself better. And there's many paths to self-awareness. You can do meditation. You can do mindfulness. do yoga. We can just go into nature. We can help others. All of these will help develop your self-awareness. And especially if you've got time to do your favorite activity, or you have a pet that you feel close to. But I believe that the easiest and quickest way to get there is by understanding your star map. Now, what do I mean by a star map? I'm an astrologer, and I use astrology to help people get very fast to what it is that is undermining them all the time. So basically, a star map is a map of where all the planets were in the solar system at the exact moment that you were born. And it is as unique as your fingerprint. No one else will have a star map exactly the same as yours. The only way two people could have exactly the same star map would be if they were like conjoined twins. This is my star map. And basically, these little symbols here are the planets in our solar system. This one is the sun, and that's the moon. And this shows at the exact moment that I was born at 5 o'clock in the morning in Croydon, because the place is really important as well. It shows where all the constellations of the stars, how they were orientated around our solar system at the time I was born. And they shows where all the planets were within those constellations at the moment that I was born. And this is like a map. And it's a map that tells me where I am now, and it tells me how to progress into the future, but it also tells me the past. It tells me from the word dot, from when I was born, what went on in my life, because I don't really remember, but we all were kids once. And in my experience, there are two planets that contribute to self-sabotage. So the first one is this one. This is called Saturn and is known as Father Time. You're probably familiar with that internal nagging voice that says, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and it just goes on. You're not good enough. Da, 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 da. That is Saturn. And it basically represents our monkey brain or our amygdala, which is just trying to keep us safe. So it's saying, no, don't do that. Don't take that risk. That might not be safe. But it keeps us over safe. It's the bit of us that tried to save us from being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger when we lived in caves. And so it's like really hyper reactive at things that really are not going to hurt us at all. But it keeps kicking in on that hyper reactivity, trying to keep us safe, until we understand it and we are able to take some self-responsibility for it. And then the other one is this one over here, which is Pluto. And Pluto's old name was the god of the underworld. It was the one that pulls you down into those black places, because it wants you to compost. It wants you to really look at what is going on down there so that you can bob back up again, having processed something and learned something. But it can be brutal. it can really be brutal. And everybody will have been through some sort of brutality, because we all have Saturn and Pluto in the sky at the time we were born. So we all have it. It all sits somewhere. They sit somewhere in our star map. And basically, they are waiting for us to listen and go, oh, okay, what are you trying to tell me? What is it I need to know? Now, the thing with all the expressions of the planets in the heavens, and they're like subpersonalities. So Saturn's the one that sits on your shoulder telling you what to do. They can express themselves in a whole range of expressions, from a very low vibration to a very high expression, a high vibration. So you may have come across this spectrum of emotional vibrations, where you remember that we are electromagnetic beings. We are emitting electromagnetic energy. And when we're in a very low state, like shame or guilt, then the vibration, the electromagnetic radiation that we are emitting is a very low frequency. You know, people who can see auras say that your aura can look quite dark. As we increase our mood or our emotional state, so we increase the frequency that we are putting out through our electromagnetic vibration, until when we get to the top, we've got enlightenment or bliss. And all of these subpersonalities, these planets, can act on the whole scale of expression, but it's particularly Saturn and Pluto that get stuck in these low vibration states, and that they give us an opportunity to work with them in order to raise them to a higher vibrational state. And when those, bless you, Pluto, when it is raised high, it is the best that we can achieve. Is when we're in alignment with the universe, and we know that we are co-creating with the universe, and we know that we are being of best service. And about halfway, in fact, they haven't got it on this list, but it's boredom that sits about halfway. So if you think about teenagers, you know, young kids, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. And they can go either way. They can either go down the tubes, or they can go, oh, I know, I'm going to go and play this. And then they go up. So we all have a choice as to where we sit on that spectrum of vibration. But when we are below the boredom threshold, when we get into this contracted area, we start to release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Obviously, adrenaline is brilliant if you've got to run away from a saber-toothed tiger, but it's not very good if every time, you know, you've got to do something at work that feels a bit scary, and the adrenaline kicks in and you can't do it. And cortisol is a life-saving hormone. This is one where we are so low, we are so in shock, that the cortisol will kick in just to keep us alive. So it's really useful if we are in a state of chronic shock. It's fantastic. It's a lifesaver. But because it shuts down all the systems that we don't need in our body, it can make us very sick. So we don't want to be living in cortisol for very long. We can help it. Now, if we get above the boredom threshold, if we go, oh no, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and have fun. I'm going to do something I love to do. Then we get into what I call the happy hormones, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin. And once we're on that level, we are making much better decisions and we feel much better about ourselves. One of the things that they have discovered is if our mothers were very stressed during their pregnancy, that their increased level of cortisol affects our genes, particularly a gene called NR3C1, which is very related to PTSD. So basically, if we were in utero experiencing mother's cortisol, then we have a greater tendency to PTSD because the gene has been modified by the cortisol. It's still exactly the same gene, but what it has, it's been chemically adjusted because of the cortisol. And it's called cytosine methylation. It's been repeatedly associated with trauma and mental disorders, including major depression, PTSD, anxiety, and personality disorders. Now, I know that my mother was very stressed during her pregnancy with me. It's called epigenetics, because it's not that the genes are different. It's not they've been changed in any way. They're not like, genetically modified or anything, but their expression is modified. And what they've discovered is that behavioral and lifestyle changes can positively affect our gene expression. So, for example, they've discovered that people who smoke a lot, that one of their particular genes, its expression is modified through the smoking. But when people stop smoking and they, get some fresh air back in their lungs, it can take a while, a year or so, but that gene is then unmodified again. It's like released, it's freed. With Saturn, if you want to get it to express itself at a higher vibration, you have to learn to quieten the mind. Saturn also rules our physical body. So you have to look after your physical body. You have to take a bit of exercise and eat well. The thing that Saturn is really, really good at is planning and organizing. So if there's something that you keep putting off, you want to just plan or organize one tiny little step, just the first little step. And Saturn is really good at doing that. Pluto also does better if we learn to meditate and we learn to quieten our mind. Now, the thing is, people always say to me, but I can't, I've tried, I just can't quieten my mind. Do you know what? Even the Dalai Lama cannot hold his mind quiet for more than 2.5 breaths. Nobody can do it. But in the very act of noticing that your mind has wandered off and you go, no, come back, come back, come back, come back, even if it takes 5 minutes to find it and bring it back, or 10 minutes, it's the act of bringing your mind back to what you have chosen to focus on. That is meditation. That is mind control. We're not our minds. We're not our emotions or our physical bodies either. We're something else. We're something higher. So we want to be able to control our mind so that when we are in a situation where our mind is wandering off and going down all sorts of byways that we don't want it to go down, we can go, hang on a minute, come back. I don't want to go there. It's not useful, because we're in control of our mind. The easiest way to meditate is to do 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening of just following your breath in and out of your nose, just feeling it going in and out of your nose. And remember that not even the Dalai Lama can do it for more than 2.5 minutes. Pluto also wants us to be quiet. We have to find some stillness, some silence, because otherwise we've no chance of hearing our higher self. And again, it's that control over the mind. So we can say, no, I'm going out for a walk now, and I'm just going to listen to the trees and the birds. I'm not listening to my mind. I'm not thinking right now. I'm going to listen to nature. And when we do that, we open ourselves up more to hearing our intuition. So we have to give ourselves these little periods of quiet. The other thing I always say to everybody is, please, please do what you love to do regularly. Me, I love walking in nature, and I make myself do it for at least 20 minutes a day, because I know that's what fills me. I know that by the end of the day, if I've had a 20-minute walk in nature, I know by the end of the day, no matter what happened that day, I can go, I had a good day. Because I know I did something that I absolutely love to do. And I gave myself that space. And I can't advocate more about being alone in nature. If you're with somebody else, you're just chatting all the time. And you're not aware, you're not looking. You're not looking at what state the trees are in now. If you do it regularly, you'll see the changes in nature. It'll take you out of yourself. But you have to be on your own to do that. And make sure you eat lots and lots of fresh food, as much as you can, as many colors as you can every day. We are literally what we eat. And our DNA will only be the best it can be if it's got the best nutrients. I mean, me personally, I take loads of supplements and things too, but at a bare minimum, eat a rainbow of colors every day and have adventures. Take little risks. You know, if you like going walking, go somewhere different. Do something different out of your routine, just even something little that is new for you. Just gives you that buzz. It really boosts your happy hormones and makes you feel so much better and makes you feel like you've achieved something. Even if it was just a little tiny thing. Do some exercise every day. Even just running up and down the stairs. Stairs are actually great. My auntie lived till 97. She was still running because she had 5 flights of stairs to do every day. Several times a day, probably, knowing her. Just a bit of exercise. And I think that the biggest way we self-sabotage is lack of time. And I have a magic trick for how to deal with this. Ditch your watch and your clocks. If you have an appointment or a meeting, put the alarm on your phone, giving you enough time to get ready for it. But otherwise, ditch it all. And when you do look at your phone for a message or something like that, just see a number pattern. Like mine, I see 1221 a lot. And just see the pattern of the numbers. Don't see the time. Because time is a very human construct that we have boxed ourselves into. And it's always running out. There is never enough of it. But if you ditch time, and this is a whole other presentation, if you go onto my YouTube site, you can find it. You go into a more quantum field where time expands and we enter like a different reality. So just try it. Try it for a weekend. Don't use any clocks or watches. Thank you very much for watching. As you can see, it's got very dark here. I'm sitting in my van because I live in a van. If you feel that, you want to know more or I can help you in any way, this is my email address. And even if you just want to know what my YouTube channel is so you can watch more of my presentations, but do reach out. Deborah Maw at hotmail.co.uk.